Here we go. Right, move everybody to the side. All right, so welcome everybody to the Shanghai Start pre-departure orientation. This is really exciting, I think, for all of us that we have made it this far. If you can remember back to December when we were just getting started with our first info session and exploring this as an option, we have really come a long way in a short amount of time, and you are getting ready to start in on this really exciting adventure. So thank you for joining us. We are aware that this is an early start for you in the middle of your holiday, so we really appreciate you taking the time out. And I do want to start by saying Happy Lunar New Year, and we have nothing but good wishes for good health and prosperity for you with this year, especially with this program. So with that, we'll get started. I want to start by making sure you know who is here with you today. So for those of you who don't remember, my name is Sarah Branley. I'm the Director of Study Abroad. So I assist all of our students who are typically outbound from the US out into the world. But for you folks, I am there for you as well, even though you are technically not leaving your country of origin. So I will let Melissa and Renata introduce themselves as well.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. We're so glad that you're here, and I want to extend Sarah's Lunar New Year, I guess, greetings, congratulations, celebratory wishes. Thanks for taking the time to be here, and I look forward to working with you throughout this process. And then I'm so excited for the ones who haven't been to campus yet to see you here in the fall.
Hi everyone, I'm Renata Hage, so I'm from API and I'm the Regional Director for the South Pacific, Middle East and Asia. I oversee all of our on-site operations in China, and I work very closely with all of our staff in Shanghai who you will be meeting. So today I'm going to speak to you about what to expect from API and what to expect when you arrive, especially in your first week or month on site.
Perfect. All right. So as an overview of what we're going to cover today, I want to start by talking about why pre-departure is important. As you can see from this list of items, we are going to be talking about a lot of things that affect you both on the Santa Clara side, prior to departure, while you're abroad, and potentially when you come back as well. And then, as Renata said, get a chance to hear about the API info that you will need to have a successful pre-departure. And so pre-departure is really looking at all of those things in addition to sort of preparing you for this new experience. And so we will talk a little bit about health and safety and what that looks like. And I keep saying abroad, I think because that's the best word that I can think of, even though I know you're not necessarily going abroad out of your country. But we'll talk about health and safety abroad, as well as your identity as a student at ECNU while you are there. So we'll touch on sort of policy as well as some other topics. So as a reminder, on your program, you will be getting a chance to meet, study, and live with other SCU students, which I know that many of you have not had a chance to do yet. So this is a really unique opportunity, and not just with other SCU students, but other visiting students from US universities as well. So I think hopefully this is going to be a really exciting chance for you all to start making some human and student connections in a way that you haven't had a chance to yet. You'll be taking in-person classes, right? It's such a novelty right now, it feels like. And so this is a great opportunity for you to start experiencing physically what it means and feels like to be on a college campus as a college student. You will be on a spring semester program, which is an important thing to remember when thinking about the fact that Santa Clara is a quarter system school. So remember, you will be away from Santa Clara campus and Santa Clara courses for winter and spring. So the spring semester extends over those 2 quarters here, and ideally you'll be arriving back with us in fall. All right. And on this program, you will still be considered a Santa Clara student. So even though you will be working through our partner API at ECNU, you are still considered a Santa Clara student. And we'll talk about what that means during the pre-departure. So we're going to launch into Santa Clara academics. So I know this is, of course, at the forefront of many of your minds in lots of different ways, because the academics are what is key and sort of foundational to this program being successful to you as part of your overall time at Santa Clara. And so as a reminder, all courses on the Shanghai START program will earn you Santa Clara credit and grade. So in terms of making progress towards your degree requirements and your graduation minimums, you still will be doing that while you are abroad. I know many of you are still waiting on finalizing your class registration. Some of you might still be wondering what kind of requirements those courses are going to count for back here at Santa Clara. We did start some of that preliminary work with you as you were doing the application process, and we will continue to finalize that. Once students finalize their class registration while they're abroad at ECNU, we will get those lists here at Santa Clara and start finishing those evaluations that were being done by department chairs for either core courses or any applicable major requirements. So you will see that list updated that we were using during the application process. Once we have those in place, there might be some of you who are interested in getting different requirements. So if you're taking a class and it's been evaluated for this particular requirement here at Santa Clara, but you actually maybe wanted to count for something else, you do still have the ability to make those requests while you are abroad at ECNU. There is a course approval request process that we have our study abroad students follow. And if this applies to you, I would encourage you to reach out to us at studyabroad@scu.edu, and we can send you the link and the instructions on how to do that. So don't think that just what is evaluated is the only thing that your course might work for. We also encourage you to continue to work with the Drummond Center. For those of you who might still have questions, particularly about the SCE core courses such as CTW. I know that many of you are in different stages of completing your CTW requirements. And so this is something that you want to talk with the Drummond Center either before you depart or even during your time at ECNU, so that you can be prepared to figure out the best option for how to complete that CTU after your program concludes in the spring. So more on SCU courses. Once your transcripts from your Shanghai START program are received by SCU, what happens is the registrar will take all of those approved courses and apply them to your Santa Clara record. So that's where you will see your credit and your grades and your requirements be updated on your Santa Clara record. This process can take up to 4 weeks because it's done manually, and each student's record is a little bit different. So it's important to know that just because you finish, on this particular day in June doesn't mean that the very next day everything is going to be updated on your record. Why this is particularly important is that if any ECNU course that you're taking is going to be a prerequisite for a Santa Clara fall course that you want to take, you will need to talk with that SCU department prior to registration, because they will need to provide you what we term a permission code to override any prerequisites, to say, hey, I'm actually in this class from abroad, I'm getting my transcript, a little bit after registration, can I have this permission code because I need to be in this class? This is a fairly common process that all of our study abroad students have to sort of undergo if they are using courses from abroad as prerequisites. If you have concerns about this, once you get to that point, we can definitely assist you with how to kind of manage that request process. So important SCU policies. So of course you will still have on-site policies that ECNU or API will notify you about in terms of add drop dates, withdrawal dates for courses, all of those typical student policies that you need to adhere to. However, because again, as I mentioned at the start of this program, that you are still an SCU student, some SCU policies still apply to you while you are abroad. One of those in particular is our pass no pass grades. So if any student has ever taken a pass no pass here on campus, you know that in theory that allows you to take a course and not receive a letter grade for it. So it doesn't necessarily affect your GPA. Students may request pass no pass grades on study abroad programs, but it's really contingent on two key factors. One is that your program provider actually needs to be agreeable to issuing a pass no pass grade. So you will need to talk with API once you're on site if you want to avail of this option and see if they are supportive of it. If they say no, then we cannot issue a pass grade for your program. And the other is that you want to make sure that the course still meets Santa Clara's requirements for pass no pass, meaning that you can only request one a term and it cannot be used towards core or major or minor requirements. So if you meet all of those factors and you still want to do a pass no pass, then we require you to request authorization by the end of the 4th week of classes abroad. We also want to remind students that they should be enrolled in full-time. So this is full-time course enrollment while they're abroad, just like they would be here at Santa Clara. And that effectively is the equivalent of 15 semester units. So how many classes that ultimately is depends on the amount of credits each course is at UCNU. So for Santa Clara enrollment, so you are currently all enrolled in UNIV 199. So when you log on to your account, this is what you see. And this is the 19 credit placeholder course that the registrar has put you in. Once you come back, based on your transcript, as I mentioned, you will see your SCU record be populated with all of the specific courses and credits to reflect what you actually earned and took while you were at ECNU. Because you are on a spring semester program, again, a reminder, you do not need to enroll in Santa Clara spring quarter. So you still might get some notifications from Santa Clara because you are enrolled at Santa Clara right now, telling you it's time for spring registration or enrollment. That does not apply to you. However, fall will. So it will be important that you are paying attention to fall registration when that occurs in the spring quarter, so that you can plan to do that while you are abroad. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here on the next slide. So SCU dates and deadlines are really key to adhering to and remembering while you are abroad. It's really easy for Santa Clara study abroad students that when they're abroad, they're having such an amazing time on site wherever they are in the world to sort of sometimes forget that Santa Clara exists until you're ready to come back. But the fact of the matter is that Santa Clara policies, or excuse me, deadlines and dates are kind of going along while you're abroad. And so you want to make sure that you know when those are, so you are participating on the timeline as needed. And so some of those in particular that are occurring while you would be abroad is mandatory May advising. So this is something that you will do either through the Drawman Center or through your faculty advisors within your departments in order to register for fall. So it's very important that if you receive, when you start to receive information about mandatory May advising, know that that applies to you. Fall registration. As I mentioned on an earlier slide, you will need to plan ahead to be prepared to register for fall while you are abroad. Other deadlines might be ongoing while you are away from Santa Clara, including housing or fall billing that come up. So just be sure to not forget that Santa Clara exists. So you want to still be checking your Santa Clara email address and paying attention to when those pop up. It's important to know that deadlines are, of course, going to probably occur on California time. So you want to be prepared to plan accordingly. So for a lot of study abroad students, that means maybe getting up in the middle of the night to do fall registration because that's when your fall enrollment time is. Enrollment appointments are not adjusted for study abroad students. So you do have to sort of make that mental calculation about when you'll be enrolling in fall registration. Given everything that you are going through, I'm sure this is not going to be anything that you're unfamiliar with, but hopefully this will be the only time you have to get up in the middle of the night to do anything for Santa Clara while you're on the Shanghai START program. So that's good news. A quick note on billing. Remember, all students were billed in January for the semester study abroad cost. If anyone still has questions about their payments or concerns about if payments went through, you're encouraged to still continue to contact the One Stop directly at onestop@sdu.edu. So they will handle any kind of questions or payments concerns that you might have. And you will not be billed again in the spring quarter for SDU tuition. If anyone is, or anyone is confused about billing that occurs during the spring quarter, be sure to reach out to us ASAP, because you are on the spring semester. Only during the start of winter quarter should you be billed. Okay. So health and safety, as I mentioned, is something that we cover with all of our study abroad students. I think it's really, of course, important to note that, your situation does look a little bit different and that you are not leaving your home country. So health and safety can feel a little bit different when you are kind of used to the surroundings and the country that you are currently residing in. But we still take health and safety seriously here at SCU. Part of that preparation for thinking about health and safety is filling out the health report that is in your Teradata database for this program. And so you are required to do this prior to departure. And the idea behind this health report is really just to give us a sense of, are there any areas that we can help support you? Are there any resources that we need to get you in touch with? Is there anything that we can communicate with API ahead of time to see if there are areas that they can assist you when it comes to supporting any kind of health or accommodations that you might need? So it is important to fill that out. And like I said, it is due prior to departure. So you have some time. You don't need to hop off this call and go do it right away, but you do have to do it in the next couple of weeks. I do want to make sure that students are aware that when we talk about health and safety, we're not just talking about physical, but also mental health. Going through a change of environment from, being at home or being with your families to now being on a college campus is a big deal. And so especially during this pandemic and all of the challenges that come with it, we want to make sure that students are really paying good attention to both their physical and mental health. When it comes to study abroad, it is important to say that, study abroad, while it's an amazing experience, is not without risks, even when you remove the pandemic that we are living in. So students are going to especially as potential first-time college students to a college campus, are going to be exposed to different incidents of potentially alcohol, partying, crime. Not that you participating in it, but potentially seeing it occur around you with other students that are on the program or at the host institution that you are studying at. And so it's important to be aware of that is occurring, and you want to really have an awareness of those instances, awareness of the fact that violence, sexual assault, harassment do occur while students are studying abroad. And so it's really important that we underscore that on-site staff is really there to help. And I'm sure API will cover this a lot more, especially when you arrive on site, about who you can contact, how you can get help if you have concerns about some of these risks that do come up from time to time. What we tell all of our study abroad students is you really want to understand local laws, even if you feel that you are really familiar with those in your home country. You want to understand what they are now, because they might look a little different, particularly during this pandemic. You want to be conscious of your surroundings, stay with people you trust, have an emergency plan. And so many of these things are really kind of good, practicing what we call good common sense and trusting your instincts to make good choices to keep yourself healthy and safe while you are abroad. I want to move on to talking a little bit about what I'm calling your identity on campus while you are abroad. Because I do, again, understand that identity for you folks looks a little different than for our students studying abroad and entering a brand new country. But I think that it's really important and exciting really to note that for many of you, this is your first time living and learning on a college campus. And so I think that that's going to be really a big part of your cultural experience. So maybe not in the country culture, but just your culture of becoming an actual student in the physical sense and living in dorms and learning to live with other students and away from your family. So that transition away from home is a really key piece. As I mentioned, exposure to incidents of alcohol, partying, crime do come up. So you really want to understand how that plays in with your choices while you are away on campus. You are still a Santa Clara student on the ECNU campus and as part of the API program. And I say that because that is important to remember that what I tell all of our study abroad students is you are representing Santa Clara while you are abroad on this program. And so your choices and your behavior reflect upon you as a Santa Clara student. So we really encourage you to make really great positive choices, engage with the local community and the students, of course, but just be mindful of you are representing Santa Clara, which I think is really an important thing when thinking about how you identify when you are at ECNU. One of the other things that I think is something that students will want to think about is how they are going to interact with their Santa Clara cohort abroad. This is a really important reason why we established this program, to give students the opportunity to establish a Santa Clara cohort while they're abroad. So getting a chance to know who you are going to spend the next part of your Santa Clara experience with when you return here to campus. But that being said, we want to make sure that you still are connected back here to the Santa Clara campus community while you are at ECNU. So in terms of taking advantage of events or resources or programs that are being offered here back at Santa Clara while you are at ECNU, you are not cut off from those. So we do encourage you to really build your cohort abroad, get to know those folks, but at the same time know that you are still part of the Santa Clara campus back here at home with us. All right, so I know that was a lot of information. I feel like we covered pretty quickly, but I am conscious of Renata getting a chance to share a lot of the sort of on-site information with you all. So with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen and give her a few moments to get set up. In regards to questions, for those of you who remember our info session back in December, we asked everybody to drop questions into the chat box. And at the end, we will get to answering those. I don't believe we'll have an issue with time, but if anybody is not able to get their question answered at the end of the session, you can still follow up by emailing studyabroad@scu.edu. And if I can't answer it, I will work with API to get you the information that you're looking for. So with that, I am handing this over to you, Renata.
Okay, I'm just give me a moment to share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen okay? Yep, great. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm going to begin by telling you a little bit about API. I'll also give you an overview of our staff and who you will meet on site, and you'll be working very closely with them. They're there all the time and available to support you. I'll also explain what you can expect when you arrive on site, and then I'll give you some general safety information, especially or in particular related to COVID-19. So to begin with, API is an independent experiential education organisation, and we're based in Austin, Texas in the United States. We've been delivering meaningful learning experiences and study abroad programs since 1997. So we have a long history of doing what we do. We are a trusted partner of Santa Clara University and also ECNU. And with those two universities, we've worked collaboratively to design this customized program for you. So through exceptional student support and high quality risk management, we are committed to keeping you safe, supported, and connected throughout your experience while you're in Shanghai. So the staff who you will meet on site, first of all, Corrine Zhu is our China resident coordinator. Corrine has over 15 years of experience working in international education. She's designed and implemented and coordinated API programs in Shanghai for over 5 years now. So she's very experienced with these programs. We have 3 community assistants who will be there on site to support you at any time throughout your program. And you will meet them all when you arrive and during your orientation session on site. So the role of these community assistants is to serve as a resource for you throughout your time in Shanghai. And that could be to help you with absolutely anything. It might be basic questions. It might be to assist you with personal challenges. It might be to help you if there's a health and safety issue that you're facing. So you will be given their contact details. You'll receive those when you receive the final packet from API, which will come out to you in about a week. And please connect with them, and on site, you'll save their numbers and you can reach out to them at any time. They also liaise with the housing providers on your behalf if you need them to. And we also provide student life activities and cultural events. As Sarah just mentioned, you are part of the Santa Clara community, and we've designed exclusive cultural events and activities that are designed to keep you connected. So, please attend all of those, or as many of those as you possibly can. So Mercury is our lead CA, and she will be your primary contact person. So although you should save the numbers for all 3 CAs, Mercury will be usually the first person that you should go to. Now Mercury, she also lived and studied abroad. She studied in the UK, in Bath and Brighton, and she lived there for over 5 years. And then when she returned to China, she has worked in international education for over 5 years as well. So she's very experienced. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Education with psychology. We also have Scarlett and Sarah, who will also be there to support you. And as I mentioned, you're going to meet all of them when you arrive on site during your orientation session. Both Sarah and Scarlett have also studied and lived abroad. So Scarlett lived and studied in Columbus, Ohio. She also worked as a journalist in New York before she returned to China. And Sarah studied abroad in Michigan in the United States. Okay, so I'm going to just explain to you what your first few days on site will be like. So on day 1, March 3rd, both Mercury and Scarlett will be waiting at the housing ready to meet you. And you can arrive there anytime between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. If for any reason you are running late, you will have their contact details. Please let them know and they will make alternative arrangements. You know, they'll either meet you later or depending on how late you are arriving, they will work something out with the housing provider. But please do try to arrive between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. on March the 3rd. So when you receive your final packet, which as I mentioned will be in approximately 1 week, you will have your accommodation address in there. You will also have contact details for all of the CAs. And please, even when you receive your final packet, you're welcome to connect with Mercury on WeChat at that time, so that you're ready in case you have questions, or if you need to contact her on the day of arrival, and if you're having trouble finding the housing. Of course, we will give you detailed instructions, so you shouldn't have difficulty finding the housing, but if necessary, just call Mercury and she'll help you out. So on that day, Mercury will assist you with your check-in, and she'll also show you around the area so that you're familiar with all of the essential services that you need to know about, including the supermarket, pharmacy, the ATM, those sorts of things. And after that, on that first night, you'll have some time to settle in, unpack, and meet other program participants. Now, on the second day, just so that you know what's included at the housing, I've just got a list of things here for you. So each room, you will all be in single rooms. Each room has an ensuite bathroom. A bed, desk, chair, and wardrobe is in every room. Your bed linens are provided, so you don't need to bring your own sheets and quilt cover. That is provided. You'll have unlimited Wi-Fi, unlimited electricity and water. You'll have air conditioning in every room. There's a washing machine in every room, and a small refrigerator, a television, a kettle, a hairdryer. There's a shared kitchen in the building. And there's also a canteen style restaurant very, very close to the building. The closest metro station is the Songfa Road station on line 3. It's 900 metres away from the housing, and approximately a 15-minute walk. Okay, so day 2. So after you've settled into your housing, on day 2, we have a mandatory orientation session. Mercury will meet you in the housing, so she'll let you know, she'll show you where she'll meet you, and you will all travel together on the metro to arrive at the Baoshan Teaching Centre. So the Baoshan Teaching Centre is where you will be attending your classes on site, and it is also where we will conduct the mandatory orientation session for you. Now, on that day, you will be given your ECNU student card and your key card that gives you to the teaching centre. Now, you cannot enter the teaching centre and you cannot attend classes without those 2 things. So, that's one of the reasons why the orientation session on this day is mandatory, and you do all need to attend. Other things that we will cover in orientation are essential things such as course information, program policies and ECNU policies, COVID-19 prevention and control policies, and general safety information. As Sarah said, it's very important that you are familiar with local laws in Shanghai. They may differ from to where you live. All of that will be covered in detail on this day, and that's one of the reasons why the session is mandatory. We'll also, on that day, give you very detailed information about the student life activities, which we will be providing for you throughout the semester. You'll also have that information in the final packet when it arrives, but the CAs will give you more information on site during this session. Not only will API be at this session, so all 4 of the API staff will be there at this session, but there will also be a number of staff from ECNU. They will, of course, speak more about the course information, and ECNU and API will be there for a question and answer session for anything that you still need to know. So after the information session, lunch will be provided, and then in the afternoon we'll have our first, activity so that you all get to know each other a little bit more, and that will be a city scavenger hunt. So you're all welcome to attend that. The CAs will be there with you, and at the end of the scavenger hunt, you will arrive quite close to the location for the welcome dinner. So on that night, on day 2, on March the 4th, there will be a welcome dinner for all of you. Okay, so on the 3rd day, March 5th and beyond, so on March 5th, Mercury will lead a icebreaker event for you. She'll give you more information about that during the orientation session. And then you'll have a couple of days then to, you know, get settled in Shanghai. Of course, Mercury will be, and the CAs will all be available to assist you if you need them. On March the 8th, classes will commence at the Baoshan Teaching Centre. During your first month on site, the CAs will be living in the same housing as you. So they will be very accessible. They'll be readily available to meet you if you have any questions. Beyond, during that first month and also beyond the first month, they will be meeting you regularly. They'll be available during regular hours at or near the Baoshan Teaching Centre and also the housing. So they'll invite you to catch-up events. You can contact them anytime throughout the semester. On the phone, they'll be able to help you, or they can meet you in person whenever necessary. We also have an API emergency assistance line. So even if you are needing them after hours, you will be able to reach them. There is always somebody available for emergency assistance. And they'll give you, again, more information on those things during the mandatory orientation session. So the CAs will invite you to regular fortnightly group catch-ups. And as I mentioned, they'll also invite you to exclusive, cultural events and activities for your group of Santa Clara students. And they are specifically designed to ensure that you are connected and, feel that you're part of the Santa Clara community. Okay, so I have a video to show you so that you can see what to expect of both the housing and the Baoshan Teaching Centre. So I'll just. Oh.教学区同济创园位于上海市宝山区，紧邻地铁3号线长江南路站和复旦大学江湾校区，生活。Okay. Can you all hear me? I'm sorry, but that video wasn't working very well. Can you still hear me though? Yep.
Yeah.
I'm just going to try that once more.生活便利，交通便捷。教学区位于园区一幢，一走进大楼，明亮的大厅映入眼帘。大堂还将为学生们提供餐饮、咖啡吧等服务，用于交流和休闲。
随着电梯，我们来到位于11层和12层的教学区，这里设有教室、阅览室、自习空间及可供同学们探讨和交流使用的休闲区域等。同学们在这里可以拥有安静、集中的学习氛围。教学楼所在园区内还设有全家便利店、星巴克咖啡、24小时自助服务银行、健身中心等服务设施，在同学们学习之余，为大家提供完善与安心的生活服务。下面跟随陈老师的脚步，来到同学们的住宿所在的中城制古园区。这里距离教学区仅1站地之隔，紧邻地铁3号线松花路地铁站。出了地铁，沿着风景优美的羊肠小路来到园区内部。中城制古园区位于上海市宝山区，是一座集商业、文化、生活、休闲一体的现代化创意园区。一走进园区，就会被这里开阔又文艺的气息所感染。园区内保留了一段中国最古的铁轨——丰沪铁轨，随处可见火车与艺术的巧妙融合。园区还设有城美术馆，灯光与现代简洁的设计相得益彰，成为同学们生活之余充电的完美场所。宿舍周边也有众多美食区域，无论是传统美食、时尚轻食、咖啡下午茶，还是各类特色风味简餐小吃，应有尽有，供同学们每日多种选择。园区内还设有中城食堂，食堂内干净整洁的就餐环境，丰富多样的菜色，天南海北的小吃、蔬菜、水果，满足每日营养所需。园区绿化充足，拥有超过2000平方米的大草地、篮球场、网球场、羽毛球馆、农场等运动场所应有尽有。学生宿舍位于园区内的好利国际酒店，这里有24小时保安巡更检查、人脸识别监控、电子门禁系统等，确保同学们住宿期间的安全。酒店3楼设有温馨大气的公共休闲区域，更是为同学们提供了平时就餐和交流休闲的场所。房间配置有空调、电视机、洗衣机、电冰箱、学习用桌椅、储物柜、淋浴和马桶等，房间整洁温馨，为同学们营造一个家一样的生活气息。最后，华东师范大学国际教育中心期待大家的到来，也祝愿同学们即将在上海展开一段充实、愉快还有安全的旅程。
Okay. Okay, so now I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about final materials to come from API and some timeframes. You should have already received your course schedules. I believe that would have been sent to you in the last day or two. If you haven't, then perhaps it's today that that's coming out to you. Now, if you have any requests for changes, that will be reviewed on a case-by-case basis. And changes are not possible after your first week of classes on site. So if you do have any questions or want to request changes, those requests should be sent to rachel.mogan@apiabroad.com. Final packets, I've mentioned a couple of times throughout this presentation, what we call final packets or pre-arrival information. That will be sent to you in approximately 1 week. And that is going to include detailed arrival instructions, a very detailed itinerary for you, and it will give you an overview of the activities and student life events that we will host for you on site. And as I mentioned, it will, of course, give you the contact details for all of the community assistants who will be there for you on site. So these things will be sent to you. The final packet will be sent to you after the Chinese New Year holiday, as I mentioned, in approximately 1 week. Okay, so I guess one thing that has been on everybody's minds is the requirements for epidemic prevention and control. Now, API and all students must strictly abide by ECNU's requirements for epidemic prevention and control. Now, I'm aware that earlier this week, I believe it was on Monday or Tuesday, ECNU emailed you all with the most recent requirements for epidemic prevention and control. If you have not already read that email and the document, please do so because it's very important information. The document is titled Relevant Requirements for Epidemic Prevention in the Spring Semester, and that was a PDF that was attached to the email that ECNU sent to you all. Now, when you read that, you will know whether there are preparations that you need to make that are specific to your situation. So as I said, it's essential that you read that now, just in case you are impacted in a way that requires you to arrive in Shanghai early to quarantine. Now, if you have any questions related to your specific circumstances, please direct that to ECNU using the WeChat contact that you were given or the email that you were given in that email from ECNU. So they are the ones who will initially help you in understanding the requirements for epidemic prevention and control that are specific to your situation. Now, general advice for all students. You must enter Shanghai with an official green code. An official green code is essential for you to check into the housing, and it's also essential for you to attend orientation and classes, and it will be checked. It will be checked on arrival at the housing and also on arrival at the teaching centre. Your official code, your travel history, and your temperature will all be checked when you arrive at the housing and when you arrive at the teaching centre. And you must also wear a mask when you arrive at the housing and when you arrive at the teaching centre. And of course, if you're asked to use hand sanitizer, please always do so when requested. If you believe that you have been to a medium or high risk area, then you must arrive in Shanghai and quarantine for the required time based on the guidelines that were stated in that document sent by ECNU titled Relevant Requirements for Epidemic Prevention in the Spring Semester. it is not possible to quarantine in the API housing. So if you are required to isolate any time during the semester, API will support you to identify alternate housing if required. I suppose for all of you, it is essential that you avoid unnecessary travel between now and the program start date, so that you do not pass through any medium or high risk areas. And finally, I'd just like to let you know who to contact for various things. So as I mentioned, if it relates to the epidemic requirements and your specific situation, then please contact ECNU using the contact details provided in the email this week. When you receive your final packet from API in approximately a week, you will be given the contact details for the CAs. So please connect with Mercury on WeChat, and that way on March the 3rd, when you arrive in Shanghai, as I mentioned, if you have trouble finding the housing, which you probably won't, but if you do, you will already be connected with Mercury, and she'll be able to come and find you and assist you. Mercury also, once you connect with her, she is going to send you an invitation to join the official API SCU WeChat group. And this is the group that we will use to communicate official announcements. We'll also invite you to student life activities, and you'll be given sign-up forms for each of those activities, and all of that will come through the WeCom group. So before March the 3rd, if you have any questions related to the program, please direct those to Rachel Mogan at apiabroad.com. And then on or after March the 3rd, when you are arriving on site or after you've arrived on site, then communicate directly with the CAs. And as I mentioned, Mercury will be your primary point of contact. So once again, you will be meeting these, all 4 of the API Shanghai staff, but you'll get to know these 3 staff, Mercury, Scarlett and Sarah, very well throughout the semester. They are looking forward to meeting you and supporting you. Don't hesitate to contact them if you have any questions at all. Nothing is too big or too small. So we are looking forward to meeting you when you arrive on site. Okay.
Wonderful. All right, thank you, Renata, for all of that. That's a lot of information. I know it can feel sometimes a little overwhelming at this point, thinking through all of the considerations and the on-site things that you will be attending and interacting with upon arrival. But I think once you arrive on site and get a chance to meet all of those on-site staff that Renata mentioned, they will walk you through this process, and it will begin to feel not quite as stressful and hopefully more exciting instead. So with that, that covers and concludes the information portion of the pre-departure orientation. As I mentioned in my email, because this is mandatory for students, we want to ensure that students will have had a chance to go through this information and understand it. So we will send out a short assessment to make sure that everybody has had a chance to listen thoroughly to the information and understand it. If students have any questions or want to re-watch the webinar, we will have recorded this, and so I will share a recording of this with students to circle back to if you want to re-watch it or watch it with your families at a later time. If anyone has questions that they'd like to have addressed right now during the session, either from the Santa Clara end or while Renata is here with us, this is your opportunity to put your question in the chat box. And so we'll give everybody a couple minutes to do that and see if anyone has anything that they'd like to discuss. Oops. No questions at all? Let's see.
We got one. So the first question is how to arrange our dorm room.
Okay, so all students are in single rooms. So the housing provider will assign you to your room on arrival. Does that answer the question?
Oh, good question. While we're living in the dorms and on program, are we allowed to live outside of the dorm occasionally?
Okay, I will need to check that with the on-site staff. I believe so, but I will check that with the on-site staff. We will let you know any rules and regulations. They will be sent to you in the final packet. So any housing rules and regulations will come in that packet. And also when you arrive on check-in day, we'll go through those with each of you.
And then another question that came in, are we allowed to drive on campus?
Okay, so the teaching centre is not very far from the housing on the metro line. The car spaces provided at the teaching centre are for teachers only. So there may be somewhere nearby that you would find parking, but you won't have parking available to you at the teaching centre. Okay. Okay, this question appears incomplete, but there will be, oh, okay. You won't be on, you're right. You won't be at the campuses for ECNU. This is an ECNU teaching centre. There will be other students enrolled in similar programs who will also be studying at the teaching centre. So you are going to meet other students who are taking ECNU classes. However, as I mentioned, it's not the ECNU. ECNU has 2 campuses, and then they have a teaching centre, and your classes will all be at the teaching centre.
Looks like we got a question about, will University of Rochester specifically students be in the same like dorm or the same living situation?
Okay, yes. So there will be University of Rochester students living in the same building. They will also be studying at the same teaching centre. So you are going to get to know the University of Rochester students well. In fact, we're thinking of organising some competitions with you where you and the University of Rochester students will attend a couple of student life activities together. You will, of course, also have many of your own just Santa Clara University student life activities. So yes, they will be at both the teaching centre and the housing with you.
And I guess semi-related question is then classes. And so the student asked if they're just SCU students.
Some of your classes will also be mixed with Rochester students and other students as well.
And then another question, sorry that I might be going a little bit out of order, is if Shanghai Start students are able to enter the ECNU campus.
Unfortunately, no, and that is because of the COVID-19 requirements. So, you know, they need to keep numbers limited. So unfortunately, no, not at this point in time.
I think I've gotten all the questions that have been posted into the chat so far.
I know this is a lot of information to process, as I mentioned, and so if those of you who want to take a little bit of time to revisit the pre-departure orientation webinar, or you have a question that comes up in your head later in the day, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of the contacts that we've mentioned, whether it's for Santa Clara or Rachel over at API. If you can't remember who that person is, you can always start with us, and I will be sure that you know who to contact at API. But with that, I think we will go ahead and conclude and let you return to your holiday and your families. So again, thank you so much for all of your attendance and your participation as part of this orientation. It is, as I mentioned, a really key part to your experience as a study abroad student. So you can check another thing off of your list, and you are one step closer to your study abroad program. So that is really exciting. So congratulations to you all. Thank you again for my behalf. I don't know, Melissa, Renata, if you have anything else to add.
Just thanks for being here and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you all.
Great. All right, everyone, take care. Thank you so much.